So let's discuss how to organize for success, with the first topic being what are the key roles and responsibilities in developing a data strategy and also in running a data program. So what about if your company doesn't have a chief data officer or a chief analytic officer or head of data in your organization? Then who really should champion a data strategy formation? Well, what I have found is that there's always someone in the company who has a passion for data and understands the issues around data. And that person can be that data strategy champion, if even just to go through the data strategy formation, and from that data strategy define then what the organization is that carries on and delivers on that strategy. So find those people in your organization, but it should be someone that's well respected, senior enough in the company that can bring the different perspectives and the different peers to the table. Participating now in the strategy workshops will be different players from across the company: business and IT, process owners, those that really can understand what processes are important for an outcome, for a business outcome. Transformation leaders are also going to be good input into your data strategy. Then the next important role is going to be then organizing for perpetuity, right? Establishing that chief data officer or the chief data and analytic officer that's going to run the data strategy. Now, that role is really critical to be that senior role who's going to drive the data strategy to execution. That was the role that I played when I was a chief data officer inside of SAP. You want that person certainly to have the right executive presence in the company, to have great communication skills, to be well respected, and to be able to communicate and be a change agent. That can come from internally in your company or externally. You're also going to have to make sure and report them into a place where certainly that function will be considered valuable. So most of the chief data officers that I know will want to work inside the business, either within a COO organization or a CFO organization, CIO organization. But if you do that, then you want to make sure you have a partner on the business that will help to bring the business teams along. In addition to that leader of that data program, that leader is then going to need a partner in IT. We talked about some of those relationships before. IT plays a critical role in enabling the technology, and we'll talk a little bit more about the technology solutions a little bit later. Now, another terrific role, an important role, is the executive data sponsor, right? And I like to say that, look, in these kind of programs, you need lots of friends, right? But you most specifically need an executive, someone really senior in the company, who's going to provide that support to that chief data officer, to that head of data. It's going to help that head of data be able to resolve important issues that maybe are spread across the company. It's going to be walk the talk of why data is important. It'll support the funding of the program and give advice and counsel. I've had some great examples of executive sponsors. I've had our CFO was a great executive sponsor, and he was very, very active. He participated with us in programs, and he absolutely helped provide the accountability that we needed across the organization. Also, if you have a chief process officer, I find chief process officers are as well, COOs and even CIOs. But find that most senior executive who can really sponsor your program and walk the talk and be your air cover for those important decisions that you're going to have to make. The reality about your executive stakeholders is that you probably will have more than one. In my experience, and even within SAP, I started off with one executive sponsor. That executive sponsor was the head of sales, because at the time, that was the most important data issue we needed to solve. But as the years progressed, our data program moved to another executive sponsor, the chief process officer. And then from the chief process officer, it also became our COO and our CFO. And some of it was due to the fact that our program was expanding, but also it was due to some of these players moved on and did other things. And that's actually great for a data program. And that's one of the ways and one of the reasons why I also say that the head of data also has to be a great communicator, because you're going to have to keep educating and training your executive sponsors, because having one is really critical to the success. So think about the executive sponsor for your program. Who is that senior executive that can most help you and the data strategy be successful? And think about that one for our next series. Another factor for success and organizing for success is having the right metrics. And boy, have we talked a lot about metrics here already. Start off being business outcome driven. Those are going to help you yield the right metrics. But get away from the data metrics, metrics like duplicates eliminated or defects fixed, count records created. Those are interesting to data people, but not very meaningful to business and your business stakeholders. So look at metrics around cost avoidance, cost savings, employee productivity, innovation, new insights. I mean, those are the kinds of business value metrics. Once we go through with the process of defining business outcomes, the more you can tie back to that outcome with how did the data enable that outcome? What were the key capabilities and metrics you can use to show that? And then the third is who are going to be those data owners, right? Those data leaders in the organization. In the process of defining your business outcomes, business process, and data, that data will need to have a data leader who's going to drive those capabilities. And those data leaders are also best in the business. Those are the key players of your data program. So a question I get asked a lot is, well, what kind of time commitment do these important roles have to play? Certainly the chief data officer, the head of data is going to be a full-time role. The other players in IT and in the business as data leaders, a lot of it depends. It depends on the work that has to be done. And certainly the more time you spend on it, the faster you will go. So that's a decision that you get to make, but certainly the amount of time they spend is going to certainly influence the results that you're going to get. And I do believe that in the beginning, it's going to be close to full time. So as I've talked about all of these important roles in the data strategy and in your data program, there are a few words I didn't use. One of the words I didn't use was data steward. And I know that's an industry term, and there's probably a place for them, but I prefer to call these roles data leaders for a couple reasons. One is I find that the term data steward is not as compelling as asking your business people to be a data leader. And also, it's really what that role entails. It's not just a doer. It's going to be a change agent within the organization that's going to drive the transformation of those data capabilities. And the other word is data owners. I'm often asked whenever I start a new position, who are the data owners? Are you the data owner? Is so-and-so the data owner? And I like to steer away from that terminology because in the world of data and in the life cycle of data, there isn't one owner. The company owns that important data, and there are roles that we all play, whether we're in the business, whether we're in the central data team, or whether in IT. And I find the word owner oftentimes leads to misconceptions about just how broad the responsibilities can be.